Hello and welcome to my channel, and if you're new here, don't forget to say hello in the comments. Today I'm taking part in a Sunday Funday challenge being hosted by Yanni and Diane from Deco Easy and Yvonne from GingerChick Rehab. You really ought to check out both these channels because they're great, and I'll leave the links to them in the show notes underneath my video. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Julie from Julie Davis Flower Workshops and Flower Start. I'm the florist that teaches. My channel is all about handy hints and tips for arranging fresh flowers with a little bit of craft thrown in too. For today's project, I'm going to show you how to make a farmhouse style tiered tray stroke raised planter. I'm not quite sure if it can be called a tiered tray if it's only got one level. I originally filmed this project live in my free Facebook group Flower Start World. I'll leave a link to that as well in the show notes underneath the video. Because I don't want to film the video again from scratch, I've mocked it up so I can show you the steps I took. And look at that, I'm pretty pleased with it actually. And you can see over my shoulder, that's the finished tray. To make my tiered tray, I'm using this old-fashioned dressing table set and a candlestick holder to match. I'm going to use some E6000 to glue everything together. Rather than have the tray sitting upright on the candlestick holder with the lip going upwards, I'm going to have it the other way up just to add a little bit of a decorative detail to the side. Now I'm going to mock this up. I've already made my tiered tray, but I'll show you what I did. I used the E6000 glue, and you need to squirt some around the edge at the top. You then mate the two pieces of glass together. So that just means you place your candlestick holder where you want it to be, and then you pull them apart and you let it go tacky for about 5 minutes, and then you finally place the two parts together. I weighted my stand down with a few books and left it to dry overnight. I then spray painted everything white using Rust-Oleum paint. I started off with a primer layer and then finished off with a satin white top coat. And this is what you'll end up with. Well, not this exactly. I've done a cardboard mock-up so you can follow along with me. So this is my 3D stand at the bottom and my tiered tray, and the line here is to show you where the lip is, where the tray's upside down. The next thing I'm going to do is to make a decorative skirt for this using some black gingham ribbon. This is the ribbon I'm going to be using. It's actually got a wired edge on it, and then you'll need some cotton as well. I'm using black to hide my stitches. So what I'm going to do is to start off by stitching along and folding and making pleats. So I'll do 2 little stitches to start, or you could tie a knot. But fold that in out of the way to give me a nice neat edge, and then eyeing it up is folding the ribbon over to make little pleats, and then a running stitch to hold it in place. And then just carry on, making sure you end up with a piece of ribbon that is long enough to go all the way around your dish. That's the reason I've kept my ribbon on the roll, because I'm not quite sure how much I'll need. So fold and stitch. Fold and stitch. Fold and stitch, trying to keep the pleats as even as possible. So I've got a little bit more to do. Pleat, stitch it in place, make the pleat, stitch it in place. Of course, if you didn't want pleats, you could just do a running stitch and pull the ends and gather your ribbon together. Do probably 3 more folds. One, 2, 3. Measure up one more time. I think that's about right. I'm going to finish off with 2 little stitches so that my stitches hold in place. And cut off the excess ribbon. The next thing I did was glue that in place. Let's start off on my imaginary line at the edge of my dish, a bit of glue, press it down. Just a little bit of glue. Press the ribbon down. So you may decide that you want to leave your ribbon trim just like that, but I decided to cover up these stitches, so I've got some more ribbon that I'm going to glue on top. I've chosen this black satin with this little loop detail. A bit of glue at the back. And what you're aiming to do here is be really neat with your fixings so you can't see where the join is. So a little trail of glue along the line of the stitches. And have the decorative trim over the top. And that is the mock-up of what I did to create my glass tiered tray or plant riser. Is it a tiered tray if it's only got one tier? So to recap, I started off with my vintage dressing table set, the tray and a matching candlestick. I glued them together and let them dry for 24 hours. And then you need to use your imagination. I spray painted the glassware white, made my pleated ribbon trim, covered up the stitching with a line of ribbon and ended up with this. It's a pretty good mock-up, isn't it? I'm rather impressed with that. And to finish off, I put a little rose on. I'll show you how I made that too. To make my ribbon rose, I'm going back to my ribbon and to my thread, and I'm going to run a running stitch along the edge and gather it all up together. If you'd like to watch a tutorial on a more finessed version of making a ribbon rose, I'll put a link to it up above. I always like to keep my ribbon on the reel as I'm working, so you never quite know how much you need. So with 2 little stitches or a knot to hold your thread in place. And then a small running stitch until you either run out of thread or ribbon. You decide how large you want your rose to be. And as you tighten the thread, you can see that the ribbon starts to coil around, and your flower is starting to develop. Making your flower, roll round from the end, curve everything into the base, and then every so often add a few stitches to hold things in place. See it there, sort of spiralling round. Can't quite get the focus right there, but spiral. I'm just going through all the layers just so they don't fall apart. And decide how big you want your rose to be. You may like it this size, or you might want to continue on a little bit more. So a few more running stitches. And a stitch to catch it in place. A few more running stitches. I'm running out of thread, so I think I'll finish off now. So stitch that in place. Cut off the excess ribbon. Because I'm using a wire-edged ribbon, I can fold and crimp the petals that I've created, and when I'm happy with that, I'll glue it into place. And there you have the finished tiered tray, all ready to decorate. Well, that's all from me for now. I hope you enjoyed the video and my cardboard cutout, and I'll see you again next time.